Welcome back, everybody. This is Night Flight, and today I have Akos Mondovici with me. He is a young gentleman from Romania, and he has an interesting point of view regarding our reality, the universe, and everything that is connected to it. And so I thought that would be a great guest for my show. And he does not have a website, but he has a very interesting YouTube channel. Everything will be linked below. And if you wish so, you can connect with him on Facebook. But now, Akos, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
So that was really a great interview that you did with Lukas. And so what sparked your interest in, let's say, having a look with fresh eyes at the universe and what is described as our reality? What was it that made you do that?
Well, it was a little bit of frustration with the jobs that I had. I worked at two corporations, and the thing that I always missed in people was emotion and that fiery thing, like, come on, let's do this, let's do that. Don't care about the rules. Oh, what if that happens? Let's just do it. And everybody was like, no, we can't. We have paperwork. We have this. We have that. The law doesn't allow that. A lot of road blockages, and I'm so sick of that. I'm so sick of following the same rules, the same things all over again. Nothing new comes on. Just fabricate robots making this, robots making that. If the problem is if you lose your job, then you don't have money to pay your rent. You don't have money to pay for the bills. And I thought about it that this can't be possible. I mean, how can we live in a world in creation that's supposed to be fun and games and so simple to understand, and we are lost ourselves in this fake reality? And then I started searching for the truth. I started searching for some YouTube channels, and I wanted to show my boss that no, I will defeat you using only my brain. I will not beat you, but I will defeat you. And I will show you that I will dismantle your whole company, the whole corporation, and you just have to watch me and do nothing, and you will not be able to do anything about it. And that's the thing that lights up your soul and gives you wings, and eventually you will realize that everything is just a story, and you need to find a structure in it. Mm-hmm. And from there, everything went on.
Okay. And you also are in love with numbers, mathematics, and with metaphysics. So how do you combine that?
Well, mathematics is something separate. Mm-hmm. Metaphysics was something separate. You always need to find a link that connects them all. And after a long time of research and a lot of insanity, I realized that what if everything is alive? What if numbers are alive? And then I started building up everything from absolutely nothing, because the deepest level of understanding is absolutely nothing. Nothingness, no information. And how can you start off from there? By using nothingness and building itself up from there. And after that is just a lot of fun and games. So each and every number has a function. Mm-hmm. If you attribute a color to it, otherwise it's just plain black and white and they are stationary. But if the colors shift along those numbers, and that means that something changes, and that small change, that's life.
And how do you attribute colors to numbers? How does that work? Does let's say number 2 does that have a specific color?
Yeah, it only has 2 colors, and it's really simple to understand it, because first of all, you have to think that 2. What does 2 represent? First of all, 2 in its basic form, it represents just information. 2, information. Well, how can we link them? What is the structure that links the number 2 with itself? And you can find a lot of metaphors and words for it, or even adjectives like the linkage between them. You can take them as opposites, or you can categorize it as two. It also means polarity. Two also means a couple. Two also means two black holes rotating around each other. And so number two, it becomes how to say, a more jammed down version of each and every story that can contain number two in different shapes and forms. And after that, you need to start studying a little bit nature to see that color red is always something that is it's a warning sign from bugs or from frogs or something. So red is mostly used as a warning sign, and it also means that be careful, because if you touch me, I will charge at you. So that, for me, in its basic understanding, is division. And what is the opposite of division? It's love, or union. And you can use that also to attribute it to the mirror image, that this is the mirror, and if you tilt it like this, then we use it as division. But if you tilt it the other way around, then that means the opposite of it, so it's union. So the whole thing is that these opposite forces that separates two bits of information, that is number two, and it only comes as polarity. Just as you focus on something, here are the eyes, you focus from here, here is the polarity shift between those two eyes, and here the image turns 180 degrees the other side. And that small point, that imaginary point when it turns, that's the singularity, which is existing and not. But it's only existing if the observer projects it. Otherwise, it becomes nothingness again. And from there on, you can take each and every number. Like number 3 is the Trinity, or it can also mean perfect stability in the plane. And number 4, you associate it with the heart, because the heart has 4 chambers, and so on. And how do I got the colors? I mean, how can you get the colors right? That's the tricky part, because when that symmetry structure was born, it's easy to put those numbers exactly on the symmetry line, and where do you want to, I mean, the 60-degree equilateral triangles, if we have one up, we also must have the shadow, which is one down. So this one is white, this one is black, and you put there the numbers. But with colors, you really have to nail it, because if you don't nail it, and you learn and you attribute colors to that default creation singularity structure, which is our God, it should be our always our reference state to perfection. I mean, we can't reach perfection, but we always must strive for it, although we know that we will never ever reach it. But that's the goal. So that is the default structure which we should use in life, that never modifies, but you really, really need to nail all the colors right.
And how did you do that?
Observation of nature. I mean, it's pretty simple. Blue, it's water. Mm-hmm. Man is mostly water. I wouldn't say 90%, because I wouldn't say 100%, because that's the mental trap. Because if you 100% doesn't represent the whole. Just as a 90 degrees, which is 9 and 0 God, not everything and nothingness, that represents one Cartesian quadrant, and that's the whole. And if you divide 90 degrees to half, I mean 90% to half, that's 45, which is 4 and 5 the heart. So you will always stay at the perfect balance with your soul structure. If you use 100%, it's the same as saying that I will be there in 15 minutes, I will be there in 30 minutes, and I will be there in an hour, or this is 50-50. That's the division trap, because while we say that this is 50-50, we don't realize the other thing, that the shadow also happens, and it also happens in the mind. So it doesn't project it in reality. And that way we divide number 5. And if you divide number 5, you always get 2.5. And the ending number is 5, you get 2.5. So that's like projecting number 5 through the division mirror down to infinity. As you would stand between 2 mirrors, and you see in this side, you see your back to infinity, and you take a look at that side, and everything goes there to infinity. Mm-hmm. So And this is why the eternal battle between the circle and the square was always there throughout evolution. But throughout evolution, nobody fell into it, but it tried to use it because they understood what it means. So they used it, but they never fell into their own trap.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I understand that water is blue, but what is the number now?
Blue, yeah. So man is blue. Why? Because he's mostly water. And if you take the pentagram, if you put your eyes, your arms, and your legs straight out, then just like children, you really have to think like a child. So you have 2 arms, 2 legs, and 1 head popping out of this main light structure, which is the body. And that means that we have 5 angles. Mm-hmm. Also, not just as angles, but number 5 as information. So we can take that ourselves just from having 2 arms and 2 legs and 1 head, and that whole thing, scale it down to number 5, and then you can really use it. And the other property is, once you know that you are water, that means also that you can take the color of water, which mostly everyone agrees on that it's blue. It's really important that when I say that everyone agrees on, because that's the common consciousness that is keep using that color variable, and the ones who think that water is another color, they are just pushed aside, and we say that you are colorblind and you don't know. I mean, you can't see that water is blue, but actually water is transparent. But we mostly see it as blue because of the oxygen molecules in it, and that's how I attributed the blue color to the number 5. And if you always need to check yourself, like water can also be green if it's full of algae, but mostly it's blue all around on Earth.
And it can be very muddy.
Yeah, it can be very muddy. I mean, it's up to you. It's up to you how you want to muddy it up without even realizing it. And after you attribute all those colors to the numbers, in the end you will remain with number 4, which from exclusion, the only color that will remain is orange. And that was the tricky part, that you have no conclusion. I mean, you can't observe anything orange like the heart in nature, because the heart, everyone knows that it's red because we take it as blood. But blood is red because you are balanced, you are 7, and if you cut yourself, then that is dividing the space which you created for yourself, like your body. And if you divide that, then of course that number 2 will come out as red because you divided yourself. Mm-hmm. So the division can be made using red or with love. I mean, you can divide with hate, or either you can divide with love. So that is the reduced value of the whole life structure that we do. We always need to attribute it to a lower a simpler form of understanding that will reflect also in the greater structure which we take place in.
Okay. You also talk about the importance of embracing the 0. Can you elaborate a little bit on that?
0 is very tricky, indeed, because 0 is there just as an ellipse and not as a circle. It's Aschi form that we use now in the digital realm. It's an ellipse, and it has that shape because it always fluctuates just up. So it doesn't go like this. It doesn't turn 90 degrees. So we only see it like that. And the main thing that why we renounced our mental capabilities is because we are unable to see everything. Like we are seeing each other like this, but I can also rotate it and see it like this. But the possibility has always been there. But we have to realize that we can do anything we want. And this rotation is actually what keeps that 0 always growing, but it's not in reality, in the mental realm. It's always rotating, and that rotation builds up itself through itself by injecting information outwards, by using it from the how do you say it, like from the line that is drawing the circle, because without that line which is the circle wouldn't exist. But you take that information and the circle uses it to inject itself out, and in the same time making torus fields. But in order to get to this, you must realize that mathematics is alive, and it can turn and it can switch, and you can manipulate it in however form you want. That was always the secret.
Mm. So, yeah, go ahead.
And also zero is the flower of life circles. I mean, 0 divided by 0 is undefined. So it means that we can multiply it however many times that we want. I mean, we can take our shape with 2 zeros, and we can put out here. I mean, we can have infinite number of zeros, and that scaled up and structurized is the ether. It builds up that flower of life filament line, which is always expanding, but they are always expanding with each other. So they are always interlocked from the lowest scale onto the higher scale.
Mm. I remember you you wrote down 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Then you made a mark in the middle, and then 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then you explained that if you write it this way, every number, if you add them together, they come back to 9. So what is the significance of that?
It was not my discovery. I just took all those findings and tried to put every story, just mush it up together so people can understand it really simply. It was discovered by Marko Rodin, and he is vortex mathematics. And what he did is he found out that these numbers, this sequence from 0 to 9, can be put on a circle, and if you do that, then 0 can take its location on the circumference of the circle, but it needs to become the center point as an emergent point. And all those numbers come up on the circle. And what Marko Rodin found is there is a symmetry between them, but not by uniting them, like you said, but drawing that angel shape, that wing shape. You have the triangle up with 9 up, 3 and 6, and as 9 shifts polarity, controls 3 and the polarity of 3 and 6, and as 3 and 6 shifts polarity, one is responsible for 2 digits, which is 1, 2 and 3, and the other one, the 6, is responsible for controlling 5, 7 and 8. Mm-hmm. And from this, I use this structure. I mean, I developed it further, not by just finding the symmetry between all the numbers, that all of them together are 9, but also trying to color them, because dimensions are not, I mean, I don't want to judge anyone, but from my perspective, dimensions are not spaces. They are not, as in quantum physics say that this is the field, this is the space. There is no such thing as space or field. Field and space is created through number 7, which is the refraction angle. And as long as information passes through it as balance, it will create space and also its counter space. And that space can take any shape and any form. I mean, it can be multidimensional, but always has its opposite in order to sustain itself. It only depends on which side you want to observe. If you observe both sides, you either exist in both of them or none of them, or either you exist in counter space or either you exist in space. And adding color to this structure, that means that you don't just add a dimension to space, but you add a infinity variable recursive function that can create all the spaces from the rotation of the colors. And then we have the numbers on another circle, And if they both come together like this in the Vesica Pisces, then that common space which we have here on the longitudinal, we have that's gravity. No, sorry, that's time and that's gravity. I think I remember correctly. Yeah, this is gravity, and the longer one is time. So after space is born, the first thing that is born is actually time, and only after that gravity will emerge out of that. It's how the geometry of the Vesica Pisces intersecting dot structure work.
Mm-hmm.
And the interesting thing here that nature showed us that we have 10 fingers, mm-hmm. and the thumbs are actually, they are just like in a mirror image. So it means that this is, and these thumbs are 90 degrees away from the other two fingers, and you really need to take this in consideration. So you have 90 degrees here. It means that this is 9 or 0. We have 90 degrees here. It means that this is 9 or 0. So for me, it means that this is 9, this is 0, but also this can be 9 and this can be 0. And how can we use that information to store it in a variable that we can commonly use? That's exactly superposition. It's neither 1 or neither 0, but it's both in the same time. And in physics, that's where you can reach that state if you if you lower the temperature until absolute 0, which quantum computing is trying to do now. But we need to be careful about it, since if quantum computing accesses that space, that's the number 8 symmetry line of creation. And when you access it, it's directly connected with all of our hearts. It's what Kabbalists say, that it's the point in the heart, is the starting point of reality.
Okay. And are you referring to the tree of life?
That tree of life is also that triangle structure, the 60 degrees triangle up, and also its shadow. If you put the tree of life inside that structure from the middle point, it fits perfectly on it. So we can talk about that shape, that diamond shape that I presented in the etheric mathematics video, or we can talk about the tree of life is the same thing. The interesting stuff is that those circles, they interchange as polar opposites. And between those primordial 10 one-digit numbers, there are three connections. That one of them is acceleration in gravity between the 3 and 6. After then 2 and 7 is spatial access. Just like we open our eyes, if we have our eyes closed, we have just a line. If we open up our eyes, then we have a point here and the point here, which also the ancient Egyptians pointed out by making this small tail here on the eye, and we also have the tail here on the eye, which goes down towards the mouth. So those 2 points, they are divided, and the eye is opened, and our eye is also like a wave. It's in a superposition mode, it's a line, but when you open it up, it opens up like this. So we have a point here and we have a point here, and that's why number 2 as information is encoded here, and the wave was born from the refraction angle from the center point, which is number 7. So 7 and number 2 is the archetype for magnetism, for magnetic polarity. 4 and 5 is the strong and the weak force, because the heart is weak and man is the strong one. Just like just like they say in the stories, a more powerful one shouldn't beat what's the word for it?
The weaker ones.
The weaker ones, yeah. And it's exactly like that with mathematics. Number 4 is the please don't hurt me. The entire nature, I mean the wireframe structure of the Cartesian system for nature. And number 5 is man, which is the stronger one. And it needs to come together with it, and that's the strong and the low nuclear forces. And also number 5, because of its shape, it encompasses the circle and also the minus sign. And number 4, it's like I'm trying to show in the mirror image for you. It's like this. Here you have the plus sign from the number 4, and this line here, this shows that the perfect existence quadrant is the plus minus upper quadrant. It means that we are positive, but we also are decent about it. We don't take it to the extremes. Like, yeah, we are like the these rights for Black Lives Matter and this matters and this matters. Believe me, nothing matters. Nothing, absolutely nothing matters. The only thing that matters is just love. If we lose love, we lose whole creation.
Okay, I wanted to briefly share this image. So this is what you can see that, yeah?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, so this is what a lot of people describe as the tree of life, but there's something missing here.
Actually, nothing is missing. It
No,
should be like that.
it is missing, and what is missing is da'ath, because you will find other trees that have this in it. Da'ath is knowledge. So you could say this is the left path, this is the right, and there is a middle one, but you can't use this if this is missing. You know what I mean? Instead of going me, yeah,
Yeah.
you could go
Actually,
you could go straight up, but not with a missing link.
actually, it's supposed to be missing. And why? Okay, so we have the center pillar. We have 3 pillars of creation. We have the center pillar. On the center pillar, we have 4 circles. On the left and on the right, we have 3. So it means that 3 together is number 6. But divided, you have 3 and 3, just like the 2 black dots in each eye. If we take the middle structure and we push it towards the left or right, it doesn't really matter, it adds up with 3. So it means that looking at from this side, it's 34. And looking at from the other side, we have the same 34. Because we have 3 circles, and in the middle we have 4 circles, and 3 plus 4 is number 7. So it means that it's balanced. If we take the other one in consideration, then it's like we add 2 number 7s in the center line. That means 14. So we have the heart and the 1. And if you add 4 and 1 together, then it's number 5, which is man. And this validates that the whole structure was created for Adam, for man. And why is there the dot missing there? Because the whole structure is the dot. I mean, the absolute nothingness, the void, is the dot, is the structure. So because it is the whole structure, it can be present in itself. And that's why the dot Sephiroth is not showing. I mean, in most of the cases, they don't show you that because it's a secret. It's much more fun if you find it out yourself. It's like a story. You have to go inside and pull it out yourself and really think about it. Why the soul is always missing? Because the soul is the whole structure together. That's why they say if you give away your soul, I mean, you give away with that primordial spin of 9, then you lose everything after that, because you will not have the energy to build yourself up again. You will just become this 0-0 singularity form that is staying there in absolute darkness and without thinking about everything. And once it receives love, once it receives that spiral information, then it can build itself back up using the information from all the lives that soul lived as memory. It's stored, and it just pushes that circle through those 2 singularities, and it builds it up in the other way with colors. And that's how it builds up again its self-reality.
Da'ath is supposed to stand for knowledge.
Yes.
Yeah. So, and there are people out there, I will put some links in the description box. Some say that what I have just shown is actually the tree of death. It has nothing to do with tree of life. And others say very blatantly, and they go into very detailed explanations, that the Kabbalistic tree of life is a total joke and doesn't lead you anywhere. But okay, we don't have to solve that problem today. I will just put the links in the description box, and then everybody can make up their own minds.
It's actually pretty simple. All we have to do is just think like kids. Stop. I mean, we can be mature about everything and every knowledge, but never forget to have fun with it. Because if you don't have fun with it, it's really not worth. It's not a life worth living for. And what all Kabbalists and everyone misses with this wisdom is it's not the things that you see. It's always the things that you don't see. And you can have a million structures, actually a million, you can have 999,000 structures before you. If you don't see that you can transmute it, I mean, those circles can interchange always. Of course, they are in superposition, stationary mode. So each and every one of them is everything in the same time. But when you have to add a little bit of quantization, just so you can see that those circles move on those lines. Just like you will draw a point on a paper, and that point, it can move in that space. But if you draw a line, that point will be just on that line, because the line in void space, in perfect symmetry, draws everything together into that center point. So actually, a more simple way of understanding this is if I tell you another example. So you are the material body. Actually, you are not the material body, but you are.
I have one, yeah.
Yeah. So you are that structure behind you. If you start to spin around fast and it suddenly just stop, you will still feel that something inside you is still spinning. It's still rotating. Those are when you started spinning yourself, you started creating this vortex in perfect symmetry, which is the void or nothingness, but void sounds more cool. So while you created that disturbance, that flow will still go on. So you can stop fast, but it will still go on. And the mind will decode that as dizziness.
Yeah.
But after some time, it will stop. And that's the same thing as that geometrical 3D or any type of D structure inside you still rotates and it tries to get back to balance. It's absolutely the same thing. If you cover one eye, then one side of that tree of life will not be visible, but they all will jump in the other section of the duality, leaving the other one completely blank. But they will still exist also there, because once it exists here, it also exists there, but they are separated. So covering one eye or debalancing consciousness is actually debalancing that structure inside you, while reality and you remain stationary. Something must move. So that structure inside you will shift. And as the more you do it, and the more you live an unbalanced life, the more that structure will, from its center, infinity line or circle or whatever shape you like, you drift away from that in this direction or in this direction, but you are still in the same time where you started. It's just that you built up your memory with all these debalancing information, let's say. A lot of geometry and colors and numbers, information. So that manifests as going down, 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 down. And after a certain threshold, you will reach a point where you no longer will feel that spiraling of the number 9, which is the love force, the primordial love force. And you will not feel it anymore, because as you go distancing yourself in division from that primal structure, also the force between those 2 points will get weaker and weaker. Just as when two people are, let's say, meeting for the first time, they don't create that thing between them that, you know, we can talk happy. it's like, I know you from like 1 million years ago, we can be open about anything. So you always keep that thing building up until you reach a point when, okay, you can call me whatever you want now, you can say whatever you want. And that's how that love force gets stronger and stronger and stronger. But it's not visible, because we are number one, you are number one. So between us, the force will be that opposites drawing each other. The force will not be visible, and it will never ever be detectable, but it will be there, because two informations, as you as me, are coming closer and closer together. And as we come closer together, the void tries to suck us more together, that symmetry force. That's why in space, if you put matter outside in the spacecraft, slowly it will come together like this in slow particles, and it will form a perfect structure. That's still the same forces of the symmetry of the void, bringing everything together by finding the largest particle, the largest object, and everything will gather around that. It's always like that. And on Earth, you have the Mother Earth's gravity from the center point, and that's gravity is not something bad. It's actually the love force that is still keeping you here on this planet.
Mm-hmm. And what happens if, because that does happen, that you meet somebody and you initially have that strong connection, as if you know that, oh, I just met this person, but there is this part where you feel, I have known this individual like forever.
That's another mathematical explanation for it. So we have the heart owl. This is the heart we are viewing inside of our hearts, and we have these two eyes. Mm-hmm. Here is the symmetry line. From here, just like when you see the the magnetic lines, each magnetic line starts to build up more and more, storing more opposites. So what information and understanding actually is on both eyes, stored on these globe magnetic lines. Just as you have the Cartesian system, in the center you have 0, here is plus infinity, there is minus infinity. So you can store infinite amount of information, and remembering them, it means that those magnetic lines storing two opposite information is locked. Because remembering something is like, you know that information, but you also know the opposite of it, and that keeps it stable, and it forms a magnetic line around it. So when two persons meet and they feel that they know each other for a long time, is that when they come together as the torus fields merge more together, that means that those torus fields exchange more information in between them before you even get to say hi or salute them in some way. And your body and your microbes in you, they also has those heart owl shape. That's the primordial blueprint of consciousness. So every little point has inside that you, and they are communicating through those torus fields with the other approaching person. And as more information gets exchanged, the whole exchange, as all those small polarity shifts, always shifting and analyzing information, the whole arithmetic sum of it will come down to you as something good or something bad, and it will emerge as a fractal in your heart, just like in crop circles. And the interpretation of that force, I mean, your heart, the spectrum of the rainbow, your heart will be on which color exactly, but there are infinite amount of spectrums combining together, but it will stop at a certain point, and that will be exactly the emotion that you will feel that, okay, this person is nice, so I will be nice. And when someone approaches like that, like a little bit angry, you can feel that. But you didn't, what the thing is that we didn't learn to decode it in schools. I mean, we haven't taught that emotion is also a language, just like sign language, or just like vibrating the air with the mouth, and you decode that vibration through the ears. So there are a lot of forms of languages. Even chemistry is a language, because when you cut the grass, you feel that smell, that is so good smell, but actually that is the grass screaming for the other grass plants that be careful that somebody is here is cutting me down, and through that chemical signal, the other ones can detect and be prepared for it somehow.
Okay. So going back to covering the, one eye, did I understand correctly that is a symbol of an unbalanced consciousness?
It's dependent on you. I mean, I can cover my eye, I can cover both eyes. Mm-hmm. Once you know how reality functions, it will not have an effect on you anymore. I mean, you can do whatever you want. You will, because you know, you have in mind your initial state, your initial creation, default state. Even if you debalance yourself by remembering that structure, it will always draw you back, because once you remember it, all those imbalances will shift back to the main singularity.
So why is it so widely used in music, in pop art, in magazine covers? You know what I mean, yeah? Or the celebrities flashing the one eye. So why is that used?
Let's put it like this. In the center here, we have a giant water bubble in empty space. It's floating around like this. All of us with those heart owl shapes are looking inside that bubble. That is our common reality. Before we had this common reality, each of one of us were a different bubble floating around in an empty space, in infinity space, in the void. Once we make contact with each other, these two water bubbles combine and try to exchange water. That is exchanging information. That is knowing each other. They will exchange information. I mean, those two water bubbles will come together even if we just walk on the street and just take a look at each other and remembering that person. That means that you have created a link between you and that other person's, between you, your water bubble, and the other person's water bubble. Now, the truth fighters or the truth seekers or the conspiracy theorists are on this side of the main water bubble. The elite and the occult are on this side. So these two sides, let's say they are woke up. This side is not so woke up because it's still searching for the truth. In the center one, all those souls know nothing about anything, so they are completely oblivious to anything that is happening. They are only locked in the money system. I need to go to job, need to get back home, need to take out the trash. So all these small things like that, routine. Yeah, and let's say that here on this side, the elite, that group knows everything. I mean, almost everything, whatever they could extract from the spiral. And now, since we all are one, it means that this group is trying to feed the public information that, okay, don't listen to them. This is the truth. And we are really telling you the truth, that we can liberate ourselves, we can live forever, we can do whatever we want. And then comes the occult and controls everyone, not with the visual means by logic, but in the imagination. Just like wearing these masks. It's not about wearing masks. It's about you shutting up God inside you. It's like you shutting up the spiral. It's like you saying, okay, I am fine with this. I will just move along and it's okay. No, 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 never do that. It's, believe me, after that, the body will die. I mean, that it's supposed to happen because we have a lot of imbalances outside our normal golden ratio fluctuation, which is eternity. If you live inside that, you will never die. You will live forever because you always keep the balance with the stars and everything. But if you don't respect that, then all those small imbalance variables outside, when you fluctuate just a little bit outside the golden ratio, and then you here again, all those keep injecting information inside the torus field of common reality. And those are not reducible to zero back to the ether, so we can't neutralize it. So they will always just float around, just like we did with Chernobyl, exploded. Nobody knows how to fix radiation or how to neutralize it, so it will be there and it will never ever disappear. It actually, after some time, it will create a feedback loop and it will destroy each and every one of us on earth, if we don't attend to it. Just like a sin. If you make a sin and you forget about it, it will keep working as a feedback loop until you forget yourself and you realize that, okay, I need to forgive that and I need to change. Otherwise, this feedback loop in reality will keep continuing on and on. Now, the public is oblivious. We have the conspiracists, we have the elite. It's just like a tug of war between us, who is trying to really make the public understand this whole concept, because it's really hard to explain. I mean, just like in the Matrix, when Morpheus said to Neo, I can only show you the door, but you have to walk through it. And finding that thing when the person walks through the door, exactly when it becomes one with the door, that singularity point, that moment in time, that's the thing that is so hard to explain to everyone, because it's so simple. Reality is so child. I mean, God is not something that, oh, okay, I fear God, I need to go to church, I need to pray. No, God is something so little and so playful that we are lost in our self-beliefs that God the Almighty, God is so great, we need to pledge ourselves to God. No, you don't need to do anything. You just need to love. And by loving the other, you love also God. God is not it's not a person. It's number 9, spiraling, always spiraling to keep existence possible. Otherwise, if it would stop spiraling, that whole Big Bang structure that emerged from the starting of it until now, as it evolved, as light and dark shift polarities, once this became dominated, once this became dominant, so once the carnivores were dominant, once the herbivores were dominant, and if that balance is not kept, then if the herbivores are vanishing, the carnivores will vanish with it. If this plant is vanishing, then the other animal that is depending on it will vanish also, because every information that we see is built up to an infinite amount of polarity shifts that keeps the whole Big Bang here. Now, if people don't know this and you don't know how to say it to them, then it's always a tug of war between the ones who are trying to waking up everyone and the elite who knows everything but controls. They can't reveal themselves in front, so they need to hide their communication between them that no one can understand, just like the Knights Templar did with the law of the squares. So you give someone a key that key will only decode that information from the law of the squares, but it will also serve as an interpretation from it, because you can decode it, but you have, let's say, 9 different interpretations, and that key is the one that will show you what exactly the meaning of it, that the main leader tried to convey to the lower ones in the pyramid structure, what they really mean, without the public even knowing about it, how to add up those squares in order to extract the main information out of it, which is always the next move and the next pandemic and the next thing. And they also use type colors. It's really that simple. If you want to see what kind of person, what kind of a person he or she is, you just have to see what is their favorite color, what they like to wear most of the time, and only judging from that, you can extract some form of information about the personality. But it can also be used as a communication code. That's why the elite hid our imagination in movies and Hollywood and everything. And while it is trapped there, it is still visible to you. I mean, all possibility is still visible to you, but through the digital, through movies, and by blowing your mind, wow, he can fly, but you can do that too. But you have to let the whole structure alone and extract yourself out of that medium to be just one with nature again. And then is when your structure, as you act and as you do it, the structure will move with you. Not acting and not doing anything, you will remain the same and the structure will not change, because reality changes exactly in that same time while you are doing it and you act.
I heard you once mention that man has never been able to think past what he observes. So what you just described, what is going on between two individuals when they meet for the first time, is that this invisible thing that you are talking about that we usually do not pay attention to, or one of it?
Well, I didn't pay attention to. I was completely oblivious to all these things. But then I started thinking simply, simple thought. It's always about simplicity, the simplest way ever possible. All the big results are all the big consequences are a result of that simple thought. They are not invisible, they are visible. It's just that we are seeing these monitors with these RGBs, and while we think that we see white and other colors, they slowly eliminate the not used, the synthetic colors from the structure, leaving you only with polarity, which is red, R, G, which is God trapped in the middle, and B is infinity, which is transmitted to blue. And we are missing all the other all the other colors. That means that this structure has modified itself into a upward triangle, and where the eye is exactly in the middle of it. Because we don't take the shadow in consideration, we are only left with one triangle. And this triangle, if we draw a center line here and we mentally eliminate these two lines, then it becomes the cross. Now the cross is also the plus sign, but an imbalance factor of that plus sign, because the center point is here. You can draw a circle around it, but if you move this up, then the circle will become an ellipse. And that imbalance variable, always in conjunction with the void symmetry forces, they are not letting all our dead people to go back down to the heart. So consciousness can move down to the heart back and reconstruct itself and be born again. And also down, it doesn't mean just the heart, because you live on the surface of the earth. The earth's heart is in the middle. Now the earth can be round, it can be flat, or either it can be concave. It's a matter of perception. So down is still the same, because our main structure is like this. We have, no matter how I rotate the screen and everything, for me, my head is always up and my heart is always down. So after that, I realized that I need to go down, because the eyes got out of the heart here, went through the spine, and here, I mean, the signal, when it goes like this, goes to the brain, and then switches polarities between them to create that asymmetry of 3D space that we see, because we are the projectors. But once it dies, consciousness will not face outwards. The singularity will not observe only this part, this angle of the two circles, but this angle will shift backwards, then crossing the singularity, which for us is meaning that we die. We feel that we switch polarity. We take a look in the other in counter space, in the realm of thought, and go down to the heart. Now, these crosses on cemeteries and a lot of places, they are still keeping that primal consciousness upwards, because the forces of the earth and gravity, which is love, draws all consciousnesses back to the center, but the cross is a counter vector of that force for consciousness. So while these two vectors exist, that means that consciousness is the middle, and it keeps it there in the grave. And we are always burying the dead, I think, in these rectangular structures, no? I mean, we have the coffin exactly just like that. We have here the upper part is much smaller than the lower part. It should be, so if we really want to take care of the dead, we should build circular or symmetric shapes, or burn it down, just like the Vikings. They burned the body down to ashes and plant it somewhere, so all that energy and that thought still encoded in dark, which we can't see, but it still exists there as the soul, can revive itself, just like a tree, like a plant, or whatever you want, because consciousness never ever dies. It's in the Bible, it's everywhere. So everyone craves for immortality, but we can't handle that, because that we didn't understand that is just a polarity shift of the singularity on both eyes, shifting vision from outwards to inwards, to the realm of thought. But the interesting thing here is that these two words can be united if we would expand our vision 360 degrees. So we have this center line here, which is the plane, which these two singularities sit on, which is the infinity line. And from there, it projects outwards this 3D space by using two zeros, fluctuating like this always. And while they are fluctuating, space fluctuates exactly like it, but only counter to the fluctuation of this. That's why we see it as stationary, because it moves, but for us, from our perspective, because we are projecting it, it doesn't move. But in the realm of thought, moves. So that life is the same thing. Material existence is the body, because the whole structure of water turned itself inside out through the eyes and heart, and it became these smooth surfaces, just like the vagina, the penis, the hands. Everything is smooth. It doesn't have right angles. Everything is rounded off. When we die, all this water structure that shifted from inside out, we just shift backwards and become thought again, because everything was born from the realm of thought, and it shifted, go to the polarity. Just like I have this shirt, and this is life. When I turn it inside out, that is death, the realm of thought. Now, these two words can be united if we slow down everything and fluctuate. I mean, our actions and every act and thought that we do will always be in that golden ratio segment here, those three lines. So 1, 2, 3, just like the three pillars of creation. And that is the limit that we have in order to manifest out life. So manifestation of life is like seeing, eating, and taking action and doing all those things scale down inside that golden ratio limit. And that limit is also what we say, young boy, please have manners, please be wise, please don't take it to the extreme, please don't curse. I mean, you can curse, but then if it's only really necessary for you to make your point or to make a joke, then it doesn't record as sin. It records as joke, and it's immediately neutralized. But when you really are mad or angry or something, or you can't, you don't have that structure of limit inside you, then it's really easy to go like haywire with everything. I mean, you go rob stores, you go hurt someone, and you don't realize that all that information that you do is always gets recorded in memory space, in counter space. And after that, it will influence the refraction angle. So if you gather more and more sin, that refraction angle from water to air shrinks like this. It gets smaller and smaller, bigger and bigger and bigger. And once this angle gets so big, light will not shine from here to the surface and pass through, which is the plane of the water, the singularity space. It will suddenly go through it and shift downstairs, and that means that you are always recreating your own reality. I mean, you're always being born inside water, inside the main reality that you didn't resolve your sins and everything. So your memory doesn't let you visit other realities and other lives, just because you are holding yourself back by not realizing and not understanding of all the sins and all the bad things that you committed. You haven't neutralized them. I mean, you haven't realized it, and so it can fall back inside in our center line and be absolutely neutralized. It's like 0 point mathematics. You build up a structure from zero, so it exists, but in the same time, since you build it up from zero, in the same time it doesn't exist because it can fall back into zero. And our pollution of water and oil and everything that we use, they are not reducible to zero. They are not 0 point energy or 0 point information. So it will remain in our collective reality until we fix it. And as a story, you can say that this whole structureless reality, I mean, it was never pure, but somehow it remained that it kept its pH. But while we are started the industrialization and using of oil and all these comfortable and technologies that don't require a lot of thought, because we can extract energy all the time out of oil, but it leaves a trace. It leaves the smog, all those other particles in the smog. You are polluting other spaces. Plus, what we don't realize is also the noise of the engine. Like it's like a quantized wave, so it's not continuous or analog. It's always quantized. And those little 90-degree angles from the pistons that the pistons create while they work, they are always pushing these 90 degrees angles inside reality. And why the occult uses this checkerboard and cube symbolism, because while they are there, they are still functioning on reality. While this orgone structured number flow flows all around us in almost unimaginable size, because they are really, really, really small, but that structure is the rainbow, which is the structured number flow. They are all, because we are stationary, it always flows around us, and it takes each and every shape of each building, each leaf, each structure. And as it goes through those 90-degree angles, just like our buildings and all these cube statues, they are pushing out these 90-degree angles always in our reality. And the main purpose is to get people to sin as much as they can, as often as they can, creating Pythagorean triangles. I mean, imaginary Pythagorean triangles that have one 90-degree angle, and the other two angles are the encoders of the gravity of the sin. But together they are also 90 degrees, so we have two 90-degree angles. And as we sin more, and as we don't forgive ourselves and don't pay attention to do these small details, all those 90-degree angles keep flowing together with the main circle structure, the creation structure, and eventually that structure will turn itself into a cube. And when it's a cube, it's all in those angles. God as 9 and 0 is locked away and is kept stationary. But since God exists everywhere, they are just pulling out a little small portion of that whole existence structure, driving away from it, because 90 degrees angles don't allow the spiral to go through it. So it will be a separate cube reality, still in the main structure in the void, but further, I mean, really far away from the main spiral Sephiroth God structure. And eventually, you can never turn all those, you can never modify the whole structure. You can only take little bits of cube realities out of it. Just like our Big Bang in this time, it is almost like a cube shape. But after we lose, I mean, after all people will lose love, then is the exact time when this whole reality will turn into a cube shape, and it will drift away completely from God, and that will be the land of the dead. And that's the elite. I mean, that's the main purpose of the elite, by shutting God all the way out. And another important thing here is that since we live in the heart, nature is the heart. I mean, it's 4 plus 7, it's 11. 1 plus 1 is 2, so number 2, it means love. We are living in love, and
Earth is an anagram for heart.
Yes, exactly. So we always need to think in archetypes, because our complicated situation always can be reduced to something really small. And since we live in the heart, it's already a cube or a square structure. I mean, all spaces, 3D, 2D, that doesn't matter, so square or cube. While you are building up other structures in this reality by adding more geometric structures inside this reality as cubes, or 90-degree angles as buildings, then you are creating an opposite force. So because a cube, let's say a cube is plus, because it's number 4, in number 4 also encodes the plus sign. So the cube is plus. While you are building up another plus in that cube structure, then actually you are creating opposites inside the main opposite. So everything is pushing everything away, but in the meantime, everyone in that reality is drawn towards positivity, like more comfort and more hot water and more in general, more comforts and more money without a lot of work. And that is exactly, the cube is plus. So you have a 4 inside another 4. That means plus plus. So it pushed everyone from the plus minus quadrant into the plus plus quadrant, into the antichrist quadrant. Okay. So you only see positivity, and you will never realize mentally that negativity also exists that can neutralize it. So all the people are lost inside reality and trying to search for variables that can define reality. But in the same time, while they are there, since positivity and positivity pushes itself, so they are polar opposites. They can combine like positive and negative and neutralize. They're all no matter how you try, just like with two magnets, you can't combine them because they are always pushing away. And that's how everyone is kept separate, because words and information, it doesn't matter if it's a symbol or a sign. It's just by how it is drawn, or its symmetry / asymmetry structure of that sign can either be categorized as stable or unstable. Just as like a circle is stable, if you push it out as an ellipse, it will draw in the void in this direction or this direction. So it draws outside. But if you build something up as symmetric, then all the forces are equal at each and every point, and the center gravity point, which is also all the diagonals that you can draw from every angle, it will be exactly in the center point. So it means that it will flow with nature and it will not go against nature. Just like these Japanese castles were built. You have the structure, and inside you have a main frame of wood that is exactly divided to the golden ratio as it gets smaller, and it will pivot alongside with the earthquake. So it will move counter it as the earth moves, as those earth waves come this way, it will flow with it. It will flow actually opposite to it because of its structure. So it will not move like this, like all these modern cube buildings and concrete. It will move exactly with it. So as the wave moves like this, it will move counter it. And this will be, from my perspective, the future technologies, is how you can maximize vibration in the material realm by injecting only the smallest amount of information. Just as an anagram for, without putting a lot of effort into something, you try to get the most out of it, just like the spiral shape and the shell. The least amount of effort creates the perfect and solid and most how you say, unbreakable and perfect structure.
So that was a great first hour. We will take a small break, and then we come back and dive a little bit deeper in the second hour. And then we will see the folks in the second hour. So welcome back to the second hour with Ákos Mondovici. The cube symbolism. Many people think of Saturn because of that. And the cross can also be folded up into a cube. So what do you say to that?
Well, now, I don't know really which spacecraft crashed in Saturn because I haven't searched. It was Cassini or Voyager, I don't remember. I don't remember the name. The thing is that whichever it was by NASA, it was sent there in order to crash it in its pole, and inside it, it has a entangled particle with laser from the cube in Mecca. And while the people there don't realize what they are doing, they are rotating around it counterclockwise, so that in space-time, since everything is linked to everything, because it all started from that main singularity, it means that it's happening everywhere. I mean, we think we are separate, but it's always happening inside the small point also. And that's the reason why quantum entanglement works. And if you entangle two particles, it will link that point in space to another point in space it can be on the other side of the universe. It doesn't really matter. It will still be entangled, because those two particles then, entanglement, it means that between the forces, between the magnetic forces that keeps, and the strong and the weak force that keeps that information bit together, they are also linked through the ether filament line with the force of light, with the force of 6. True, and 6 is number 9, which is also the spiral, but it's the opposite of the main spiral. So the distance between 2 points was never the line, was always the spiral. Because spiraling here can also spiral its opposite, because whole creation is made from the center pillar divided as opposite. And that was the first sin of God. Now, because of this, it means that all other souls that have that love force energy inside their heart, that radiance, that will also have an effect in space-time, just as the double slit. When you open your eyes, you are projecting that owl heart shape outside in the focus point, in the observation point. So that's actually the first division of space, because while you open your eyes, you don't see space outside. You are seeing your eye color, which is the whole universe inside your eyes. You are, when you cover it, then it becomes dark. You are covering the whole universe. So from your perspective, everything is dark. Now, if those trinities together, if they rotate, they also will create an imbalance factor in the symmetry of the structure of the superposition void. And that can be reduced inside the center point, which is the cube in Mecca. That's why it's so important to form a perfect rotating circle around it. Now, since that rotates, it means that it rotates also Saturn's rings. The other person who is the controller of it all, that stands above their relative field, which is the plane where they rotate, that person offers the perspective of that cube. And it's actually located exactly in a place where the cube becomes the hexagon. So it is the cube, but also is the hexagon. So you see two shapes. One shape is in plane side, and the other shape is in 3D side. That means you are linking the singularity in the heart, which is the all side, so superposition structure view. You are linking that with the cube structure, which is the eyes, which is the 3D view. If you cover one eye, you will not see so much in depth. You will only have the memory of depth. But if you are in a different location, where you have never ever been before, you will not realize that depth of view only if you have two eyes. So that information is the Holy Trinity through the controller, using all that consciousness power, rotational power, to add small imbalance factors in that whole wave. That is like talking to the God, which is all planets are gods. It's talking to the god Saturn, which is also the anagram for Satan. Saturn is not something bad. It's the ego planet that controls all the hate and division. And the opposite of Saturn will counter that. It's like exactly that structure of the primal symmetry of numbers colored on the geometry. You will see all the opposite forces there, and those are the same things, only on a larger scale. So Saturn would be number 2, but in a different form, as Saturn means S is 4, 2, cross is also 2, U is also 2, because you or us. R, N, that is 4 and 7. So the whole information structure as Saturn, we are reading it only from this side to this side, but in the same time, since it can be interpreted in superposition mode, that means that we can also interpret it from the other side, red, like that, and also from the whole structure top to bottom and bottom to top. That is the mirror image that we put inside it. Now, because Saturn, let's say S-A-T-O-U-R-N, 6 letters, no? That means that we have an even information structure. So we need to put a mirror, an imaginary mirror, always in the center of every information. Just like I see some information like Saturn, I will take that from there and I will put it exactly in front of me in perfect symmetry, so I can see what it tries to tell me, not just from this side, because that's just one story, from the other side. And after that, I make circles around those informations, and I try to switch them up to see what are all possible stories extracted from that singular message as Saturn. And all those numbers as Saturn added up and reduced, it will give it will give in that primal diamond structure where is the emergence, where is the emergence point from? I mean, from which Sephiroth or number it emerged in our time of observation. And the thing is with Saturn that while they are making this, they are pushing through that quantum entanglement link, not throughout space until Saturn towards Earth, but also Saturn communicates back through Mecca, injecting all that information out of the cube, covering Earth. And after some time, even if it's unbelievable, after some time, as they showed it in the movie Bird Box with Sandra Bullock, with all those demons manifesting and everyone killing themselves, that was actually just the pre-program for the heart that can be activated in the future through cell towers, and it will be decoded by the logic, because we only see with one eye, only with logical understanding. It will be injected through the imagination towards the heart, only decoded by logic, not understood by imagination. So it's like that's the control factor, because logic alone can't understand, can't decode full reality without using imagination and also realizing emotion. So it will be kept in constant fear, just like most people in this world, because they don't have a structure to life, and they can't, if you don't have something that you can associate yourself, just like number 4, associate. Number 4 is defined through number, which is the opposite. No, number 5. Number 2 is defined through its opposite always, so it can't exist alone. So they always work together, creating imbalance factors. If you don't have the structure and you don't know anything, and of course that you will be afraid, since you can't understand what is happening, but really inside you are creating those, you are letting a portal for that frequency to program you. Since you don't understand it, it will flow through, and those entities will really manifest in the material world. Because what we don't know is that in the nothingness, in the void, which is pure consciousness, it's also the same as in the material and in the matter and in the antimatter world, which is the antimatter world is actually the realm of thought. So those entities as spirits and demons, just like all stories and all agencies, they are really absolutely real. And if we neglect that information, then of course that we will be a part of that consequence, because somebody throughout his story until this point, they thought about this. Even in the Dark Ages and in the Renaissance, they knew that something much greater must exist, since creation is all possibility, and every kind of information that you can think about, you can really make it real. So why limit yourself only just to using material after you die and you move on like this? So it must be something greater to this. We must be able to fly. If I think about myself, okay, I can fly, that somehow must be possible also in the material world. But those spirits fight for these information structures that they can also manifest in the material world, because what they don't like is being trapped in the realm of thought, because there you have the control of the main consciousness, which is God, which is the self. So it can't escape. They are really trying to escape from that realm, from as far away from God as possible. So the only possible way is through the refraction angle of the eyes. But to get there, you must climb up this structure from the chakras in order to get pushed out in reality. And this is why all these occultists are, I mean, this is their whole goal, to pledge to those spirits that they can come through using dumb humans,
Yeah.
and they can be used, and through using them, through them manifesting in the material, bringing all that evil and antichrist in the material, and those entities promised the occult and all these people who gave into adrenochrome and using fear in their control, they have been promised that they will also have eternal life in the material world, because these demons know a secret of the cube combined with darkness as 4 plus 3, but in the other world, which is the inverse of Kabbalah, which is the antichrist world, where the dominating colors are white, infinity, yellow, dark as 3, and number 4 as the heart. So this is the constant battle throughout every kind of story. It's always about the heart. It's the devil and these dark entities, which they really exist, only not in matter form, in the, just as I said, in the middle of the atom and in the middle of each information bit, even in the middle of words. They exist as the neutron, as that nothingness, and they really wait for this information as on the lower stories, as the ABC, the numbers and words and structures and cities and every information bit to come to be aligned with their existence manifestation level, and then they can grab all those arms throughout all those information fields and pull themselves out from the realm of thought inside the material realm, and then helping the occult and pushing man to, killing man in the realm of thought. But in the realm of thought, they have already separated that spiral from God, so they will also draw the whole dead with the whole structure and with the evil. So they try to steal as many number 4s as it is possible. Just imagine like that. Imagine that while we are living here in the mathematical realm, in the realm of thought, these numbers and small information bits in our heads, there is another fight going on there that still reflects this reality. So if we attribute functions and thinking that numbers are alive, while we are using them in this reality as money, and is the same. We are the one, we are using money, and the number 1 is between M and I. M is number 5, and I is the Holy Trinity. Number 5 added up with number 3, the Trinity, it means that they come together as information in the center point, merging with the 1 in the center point, which is number 1. So number 1 will become yellow as infinity, just like trapped in infinity, just like 440 hertz. 4 plus 4 equals infinity, equals number 8. So all those stories of numbers are reflected in the outer world as complicated fractal life. And the interesting thing is that with your unified voice, we can control that structure. By we together uniting, just as in Michael Jackson songs, like holding hands around the earth and say, number 1, please take the place of number 8 now. And the whole structure will shift its properties as number 1 becomes 8 and 8 takes the place of the Sephirot of 1, drawing also the modification of the whole structure. And this is how collectively we can solve Chernobyl. And this is why prayer and miracles work, because the priest who is performing a miracle, it eliminates completely that mental barrier that, okay, I will do this, but I don't think that this is possible. No, it's absolute conviction that is possible. And they are not realizing it, but they are having an engagement with that structure, with that symmetry structure, and the numbers using colors will respond to the color pink in the love, and it will push all this orgone energy, which is the structured number flow, as everything comes together in the center point, in the 0, in the ether, while the main structure remains. This will push out it will push itself out by turning itself inside out. And in that center line where the 0 meets, where those polarity sheets between 2, 7, and 4, 5, they fluctuate, and just like in the vortex mathematics, that vortex calculator, which always flows in that shape, they always meet in the center, and from the center you can choose which number you want to push out with consciousness, like 4, 5, 2, or 7, or you can push out all possibility, and that's why the structure is made like that to meet all information to meet in the center, and then it flows back again. Same as two waves move like this. Here is when they are both one. So here you can push out information, and then they become again defaced.
Okay. Since you talked about the number 8, let's see if the camera picks it up. Can you see it?
Yes. Yeah, I can see it perfectly.
So up there, the first line is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Yes.
And I did it with 8, 8, 16, 24, and so on and so forth. And then I boiled those numbers down again.
And you get the inverse of it.
Yeah.
Same with.
Is that where we are looking at the reflective nature of our reality?
Yes, it's that extremely simple. So while NASA is 9 and 6 as God not facing thought or light, it's like keeping reality, since God in this whole wireframe structure, in this ether structure, moves only in 90 degrees, the 90-degree angles by using the self as nothingness, as 0, and everything as love or 9, forming together that information, merging and forming the 90 degrees. So it means that God always moves throughout creation in 90 degrees. That's why the cross has those 90 degrees when we pray. But since the elite trapped us inside this 90 degrees cubes and design sheets, even the buttons on our laptops and keyboards, they are cube shaped. They are not really circles. And the screen is also just 2 cubes. Here is 1 cube and here is 1 cube. It means that there are really 2 cubes, since there are only perfect symmetric shapes from the beginning, and the imbalance factor of those shapes. So here there are 2 cubes that always fluctuate like this, trapping the spiral that flows from the eye inside on this plane, which is the infinity plane. And this is how they try to capture consciousness by. So you look more and more in the RGB spectrum and trap it. The same thing as you said by by doing it with 8, and you get actually the inverse of it. It's like mathematics reflects itself through number 8. Just like you have 8 here, we have the white one and we have the dark one. Together they form 10 as us. So while we say that we are 100% represents the whole, it's like the perfect existence quadrant from the plus minus. You make an angle that is 100 degrees. So you reach 90 degrees, and then you add another 10 degrees, and that's actually where the Riemann hypothesis, millennial mathematical problem division gap is, between 0 and 1, which all the mathematicians try to solve. And that division gap was really at 0.5, but since man was pushed always of this angle by using 50% and 100%, and always using number 1, 2, 5, and again 1, 2, 5, and adding even more and more zeros, that pushes man in the plus quadrant, and it falls inside the Riemann hypothesis singularity line, which is all the trivial zeros, but it can't manifest there, so it goes through that torus field. It's just like a game. Mathematics is a game. So it goes through the 0, through that trapped imagination torus field, which is the number 8, like this as infinity, turned 90 degrees, becoming infinity, becoming number 8. So all that other Cartesian color axis, which we have one for numbers for one eye, we have another one for colors for the other eye, that those color axes merged with the y-axis. That's why the colors became complex numbers, having that small coordinate variable inside the other dimension, which is number I, which is A plus BI. A is the real part, which is the x-axis where humanity is trapped. Y is the imagination segment, which is the y-axis, which is the other coordinate sign. And if they come together as A plus B, that will be number 10. So it's exactly the color axis hidden, which is the archetype for the imagination. As we watch movies, we are trapping our imagination inside that realm. So this also, since it happens in reality, it also must reflect somehow in the realm of thought by using and playing with mathematics. That means that that division gap will open up. So this division gap is on top of the first sin of the God, sin of the primal God, which we call God or Keter or Hashem or whatever cultures call it. It's just that diversity, but it's the same thing as the spiral. That primal spin was dividing the whole symmetry structure of the void through dark and light. Any other more divisions will manifest as the Riemann hypothesis by creating that thing, and it looks like this water structure is trying to get together with this water structure, just like the mathematics say like two logarithmic lines coming, like, I mean, four of them coming together like this, and in the center point is actually a torus field of the imagination, which is responsible for this side, but dephased 90 degrees. And that is pushing everyone. It works like a channel. So it's pushing everyone always in the plus quadrant, while the perfect existence quadrant is kept away from all humanity. So imagine like all reality would be all quadrants. So plus quadrant, perfect existence quadrant, the ether structure, which is the minus, and the prima causa, which is the birth of God here, down here. We can be all of that, but from all of those four perceptions, we are pushed only inside this one. It's just like all these four shapes coming together in geometry, forming a cube. And so a cube is you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 vertices. That means 4 plus 6 is 10. Is the actually how many fingers we have, and that's why we use 100% and keep on using ourselves as 10. But 10 also contains the numbers from 0 to 9, because using 0, you also counting them up, they are also 10. So it's just like all that information from 0 to 9, all those colors and everything, they are pushed together. And since we need to, while transmuting something, we need to keep, while we are compressing information, we need to store it somehow so we can also extract it. And that's why all those numbers, the one-digit numbers, became together as 0 plus 1 as number 10, as man taking all reality and taking everything and using everything, and don't give a damn about everything, that about the consequences, and that those consequences will never ever disappear. It will be always there for the offspring and for everyone to inherit it.
Okay.
And that's how everyone was fooled, using this thought magnetic structures.
Okay. So in one of your videos, I guess it is in theory of everything.
Yeah.
You have a clip, I guess, from maybe it's a video game, maybe it's a cartoon movie. I'm not quite sure, but anyhow, it says that angels have descended from chaos to earth and seek the destruction of all human life. Why did you choose that clip?
Since every video game and every story reflects the main story, you can use whatever information you want from reality from different fractal levels. And that's the joy of creation, by realizing that you can combine music with waves, and then with fire, and then you can combine that with plasma, you can combine that with the hydrogen function of consciousness. You can combine every bit of information from the largest to the slowest, and you can create art, just like the heart, the art, and HE is 445 plus art. So it means that all creation was just an act of art, born from the heart. And realizing that you can combine anything and everything, what better way to tell the theory of everything, but by using a story. And all these, these bad and evil stuff, like it, while you create all of those evil, it creates a wave that the fear inside the reader gets larger and larger, but then you counter it with another good information so you can be happy about it. So you create these waves just like a roller coaster ride. And that's why I didn't wanted to refrain myself of using curse words, evil things, the most evilest thing possible. I mean, there was this game that I played when I was small. It was called Shadow Man from Acclaim, and it had such a really great story. But it was a horror story, like going into that side and then coming back from then. And it's actually the same thing as reality. And I wanted really to use that evil to show people that evil, but also counter it by making them realizing that no evil exists. Everything that is evil, like I don't know, Dark Ages, killing, torturing, and everything. These are all are born from the thought of man, because no animal and no other creature would spend his time wastefully, like thinking about the bad, because there is no bad in creation. There's just only number 9, that primal spiral, and you can. Since that primal spiral created everything, it means that God is in everything and is everything. We just really need to wake it up by coming together and with prayer and eliminating everything from our minds. So no mental barriers. Let's say like I am camera shy, or I refrain of showing my true self to you because I'm afraid of that what you might think of me if I do that. No, we have to eliminate that, but always be extraordinarily decent about it and know that the limits of each. I mean, exchanging an energy with a person, I can feel you. I can feel how your personality is built up, and by looking at the structure and the geometry of your body and everything, you can extract small tips, like okay, you need to approach me like this, I don't like this. So all these little variables added up can result in a really extraordinarily good conversation. But using a screen and the digital, those emotions can't connect. I mean, we are far away and those magnetic lines can't interconnect. I mean, we can't change body language, and we can't let our inner consciousnesses, like all these cells and numbers, communicate by being close to each other. So we are always locked away, just like we are locking ourselves away from nature in these 90-degree geometrical cube buildings and rooms.
Yeah, and energy does not flow very efficiently in square rooms and buildings.
Exactly, because orgonal energy is always flowing everywhere, but the structure of it is restricted by the geometry of the shape which it flows in. Because when we open our eyes, that's when orgon flows. It flows from the inside us, projected outwards. And when we are closed, we are restricting it. But in the same time, we are not able to see. So either you lock it, you give it outside, or you lock it inside you. That's the inner world and the outer world. It's super simple like that, because the theory of everything should be understood. I mean, if God is that amazing, then God should be able to have the theory of everything. So even a 5-year-old child and even a super, I don't know how many degree scientist can understand it in the same time. It's supposed to be that simple. And the link between them is playfulness. That's the only thing, playfulness and fun. And these, one more thing, and in these 90-degree angles where the room meets, that's where orgon is absorbed back into 0 point and is trapped. So it's not allowed to be reflected. As the fractal structures of flowers and trees and what nature creates.
I've traveled quite a bit to Abu Dhabi and Dubai, and what I noticed the last couple of years was that more and more round buildings were being built. that weren't, you know, one hotel, for instance, was completely round. It looked a little bit like a makeup box for ladies, you know, that you can open up. It looked a little bit like that. So I was thinking, are we learning? Are we finally getting it, that round structures are better? What do you think?
I think that there is a shift in the mechanism of the cosmos. I mean, we reached a time period where we start to enter, start to access more orgone energy, because it will be the, I mean, we are entering the age of Aquarius, and I didn't really spend much time of studying, of putting together all the cosmos, and so that there are these main polarity shifts, these singularity point shifts that create the whole structure of space, when planets are aligned or something like that, as the winter and as the solstices and the equinoxes. These are happenings where the structure, just like a point, goes through a line. So this is the line, here is the point. It goes through a point, but when it becomes one with the line, so it becomes one with the line, then a whole universal shift will manifest, and you can use that shift, I mean, be completely in balance with it. And these, just like eclipses, solar eclipses, lunar eclipses, planetary alignments, solstices, equinoxes, these are the points where reality, the whole structure of reality, just like in Matrix, can be turned inside out, or when you can add information from inside you to a structure. And this is why alchemy was linked to the stars, because observing these huge polarity shifts is like taking not just your power, consciousness power, but taking that whole main structure's consciousness power and combining it, unifying it with yours. And in that exact moment where the structure becomes together with the whole matrix, which are you, then is the exact point when you can add another electron or another atom through thought to a structure, so that you can transmute lead into gold, or any other metals that you want. But you already need to have a structure in order to transmit it, because in nature you can't have something coming up from thin air. It has to be imagined. It has to have a structure that you can transmute. So you can only use existing variables in material reality. You can't modify its properties, only if you have it there as exactly that volume and exactly that shape that will modify its properties, but keep the exact shape and the exact volume.
You said that we need to pray. Whom to?
To number 9. It's that simple.
To number 9.
Yeah, I mean, it may sound crazy, but it's actually that simple. And how do I know this? When Bush was orchestrating that plane attack, to create that illusion, but the explosives and everything were already set up as reality, as material. They only needed as a common illusion. Then they said that if the 8 comes to bother you, just ignore it. Because when you say something and you ask Keter or number 9 a favor, then it will respond through the infinity structures, through that symmetrical line. And so after asking him, of course that number 8 will come to bother you, because it comes to bother you with the black one, with the shadow. And if you take it, then you can make the transmutation and project it in reality and make it real. But if you bother it, it means that another controller, which is having something opposite to them, will control it. And that's why Bush held the book upside down. The pet goat, and I don't know what was the title. It held it upside down.
Pet goat too.
Yeah. But the information inside it, transmitted in numbers, is what is important, because they could have used any other story to tell. but that information my pet goat to had exact that numeric structure that repeated through kids can modify the structure, but for parents and for normal people it will seem just as a normal story, just like repeating and spelling out words. And then there are the other words, which the smile and plain, must, hit, still, and those are the kite variables for consciousness, which are the control factors. So by knowing that you can pray for number 9 is that simple, seeing that it worked for them and really believing it, because I have no doubts about this. I don't care if I am said that, oh, this guy is insane. No problem, I am insane. Come join the club if you want. And knowing that, you can know that you can always pray to the spiral. But praying to God, praying to someone like God, since God is existence, either if you pray to something that lives, like a plant, like a flower, like an animal, like all humans, like a statue that is also alive, which is a representation form that is still in this reality. It's like an ideology that hasn't been brought down, so it will stay there, so it will have its energy on reality. That's why they are tearing down all these important, our forefathers and statues, because they are trying to eliminate that story from reality by replacing it with their story, because the statue is something that is set in stone, so it is something like forever for the common consciousness story. Now, and I forgot completely where were we?
But it's okay. It's okay. It will come to you. It will come to you. So some
There
people,
are so many roads.
some people say, pray so that I can pray on you. Prey. Yeah. So that I can pray on you, meaning you are giving your power away. The minute you start praying, what say you?
That's why the accents are so important. Just like in the Bush cases of programming children, when you say, please let the letter, it's like putting emphasis on the number, on the letter P. Or so praying, it's like praying for something good by saying it like in a monotone manner. So monotony, it means that each and every bit of information as letters are important. But if you add structure to it, like emotions, like prey on you, or slowing this down and making that bit of information much faster, it's like also the same as separating it. So it can have a lot of meanings depending on how it's on how you hear it and how it slips inside your heart. You know, every detail, every small detail counts.
Would you say that 8 is, coming back to what I scribbled there, would you say that 8 is the point where everything springs into existence, the point shortly before it becomes 9? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. I think the simple explanation for that is I will release a video soon about the whole story of creation in a more childish and fun way, just like God is being born, and the whole structure will be evident there. But before 8, there was only life, because life precedes even numbers. That primal life is the void, and the void being structured and being conscious, that's the time when God gave birth to himself, to itself, because it's not a he or she, it's itself, by structuralizing itself. And that in our world is mean that we translated in a metaphor would be that you will never get anywhere in life without structured thought. It's the same as creation, since it happens all the time. And so the first thing that existed is that we don't even have a word for it, is that absolute nothingness, infinity, space, existing not, and it's absolute nothingness that gave birth to itself. becoming water in the material world. So everything and our whole dreams and everything is stored inside the water. If we study water, then you will get the answers for everything and anything. But you have to study it from a different points of view. So before the infinity symbol was born, God, as number 9, gave that spiral and recognizing itself. So this is God, sorry, like this. This is number 9. Let's show it like this, number 9. And this number 9, since it grew, since it has this small tail, that's an imbalance shape in the supersymmetry of the void. So it will always rotate in that direction because it always tries to balance itself out. If 9 recognizes its opposite, which is just like this is the infinity line, and we try to make a heart like this. This heart, like this, is also here one number 9, and the other the opposite of 9. So love faced its opposite, which is evil, and they came together like this, and those two tails here met. So these tails are the exchange of information that will keep it stable in the void. It will not modify it. And these two, the two circles that has those small tails, those two became the eyes. So it's just like the heart owl. It's 2 zeros came together with the heart. Just as now, if you take this heart and you rotate 1 9 of it, it's like, okay, we agreed. We are loving each other. Now what? So because we are staying together like this. So now what? And then evil tried to respond to the commands of love, and it turned itself like this. And so they formed that eternal spiraling shape, which is the yin and yang. So inside evil, you always have a small bit of good, and inside good, you always have a small bit of evil. And that is between them, you have the golden ratio, so it will rotate stably. And that initial story from the center point gave birth to all and every other structure. I mean, it gave birth to that main structure by forming around the infinity line. And now to get to the end of it, that infinity is those two circles here as two hearts came together. It's hard to show it like this, maybe. Okay, like this. So one circle here, one circle here. That is actually joined together. It's the infinity. And either you view it as two circles. So the same, how you view information. Either you view it as two circles, either you see just one, either you see the other, or either you see that they also communicate like this. And how do you see that? You rotate it. I mean, you observe it from a different perspective. And if you observe from a different perspective, then you will see that these here in the center don't really join. It will form a shape like, so here you see infinity, but if I show you like this, then it's actually not infinity, because they are not joined together, but they can be joined together. It's like all possibility, you extract a small amount of detail. It's like from the whole Sephiroth, you only observe a small portion of angle. That means that you leave the other portion in the other realm. So it's the same as you have quantized all that perfect structure, and by quantizing it, you are observing only a small fraction of it, and the other parts became shattered and divided. We have to learn to see reality in paradoxes, because that's the only way that we can live forever and stay completely in balance with the self.
Do you know who Anton LaVey is? Well, was.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
He wrote an article explaining that the true satanic number, the hidden one, is number 9. And you know how many people freak out when they see 666? Yeah. But if you boil it down, then it's 18, and then it's 9, of course. And
what is, it's important. Why So we need to take every bit of information in consideration. 666 is 18. But if you add another 0 behind 8, then it's 180 degrees turn of 9. So it's like 9 becoming 6, but because you also have the Trinity, you interpreted as 666, meaning that the 1 and 8. So the 1 wants everything. It wants all the light. Not as 6, but I want everything. I want to reach for infinity as 8. Just like the German flag. you have the yellow,
that is not what he wrote. And of course 9 has all these properties. 1 plus 9 is 10. You boil that down, you end up with 1, and so on and so on. And you when you do the addition, you always end up with what you started. Yeah,
exactly.
And it doesn't matter how long you do it, it will never change. And with a multiplication, the same thing, you will always end up with a 9. So, but you say, in other words, Anton LaVey was wrong. It is not the hidden satanic number.
He was actually not wrong. You have to see what he was trying to do, because he is a lot smarter than that. By him saying that number 9 is evil, is the most evilest number, he was trying to convince you of it, to inject it inside your consciousness so you remember it like that, while he knows that number 9 is God and is the absolute prima causa of everything. And he just makes a polarity shift of it so he can accomplish his goal by you being afraid of it, and he is taking control of it. It's also in the same
bastard.
It's all that simple. You have to see you have to see beyond the actions of humans, because every action that everyone does, it's also reflected in his work and in his manners. And if someone lies a lot, and if someone makes a lot of bad deeds, it will also reflect in their skin and with their facial expression. I mean, the eyes will get more bumped inside. I mean, it will modify the whole structure, you can't really do anything about it. If you want to be young again and to be pure again, you need to activate that soul. I mean, that power that wants to do this and that and art and draw like this and draw with my, I don't know, do anything that you want. And it must never be held captive. It must always be run free. And you, anything that you want to do, you will do it. But you always think that you need to act always in accordance to the golden ratio as fluctuate with nature. Never make your wave as your existence, life, quantized wave, faster than the flow of that nature wave that can be measured. So it's all polarity shifts that you need to the information is actually that shape that changes information, that changes content, while people remain lost in this content, constant shifting of the content. They don't realize the center point, which is shifting it however he wants. Just like the virus is fake. I mean, I know that there is a virus, but for me, since I have full faith, I don't care if I die or something. I don't even, I mean, I invite all those occultists to come and kill me because I'm not afraid of them. I don't believe in them. I think they are just little tiny assholes that now they are just pissing their filly little panties because someone exposed them. And now, because it's so simple that all the kids and everyone can understand. I mean, everyone can count to 10 or use numbers. It's that simple. Transmuting words into numbers, and you find out the meaning of everything, and you find out all the fractal levels by the intent behind that action, behind that word, that actual word or ideology.
You also talked a little bit in one of your videos about these flags, of course, square again, and that they use certain colors. And a lot of colors that we will find is red, white, and blue. Many colors, many countries have that in their flag. And that reminds me of the pharaonic bloodlines. You have the red crown, the blue crown, the white crown, symbolizing different things, Upper Egypt, Lower Egypt, and the war crown. So it seems to me we are still ruled by the same bunch of individuals. Let's put it friendly.
Well, since we are angels, we don't have to be afraid of anything. The Pope wears always white because white is always the number 1 and the number 6, meaning that whoever believes in him, that he is your master, it also, because he is 1 and 6, it means that man is number 7, just like the RGB. So man can be blue 5 or 2, as when I say 5 is blue, when I say 2 is red. And just like a magnet, if you split the magnet or you break it up, that center information as number 7 becomes, it splits itself out while keeping itself, and it always divides as 5 and 2. Or if you split it up, 7 becomes 5 and 2, while in the center point it always keeps that information. Now, while man thinks that he is balanced and he is 7, the Pope is actually, since number 1 is always white, and number 6 is always white, because that color link between them is the dimension that while God rotates as 9 rotates with 6, as yin and yang rotate, it always gives man thought. It always pushes the heartbeat through those waves. That's the color information is the dimension which that information passes through, meaning that we are the one. So we must have some color in order to receive that information from 6, as number 6 is light and thought. As the Pope only dresses white, it means that he encompasses also 6 and also 1, so they come together as number 7, meaning that he is also, while he is controlling thought and God, and is the link between God and man, he is also 6 plus 1 is 7. He is also green as the RGB center point color, as man, as green. So he controls, so believing in someone, or believing in your government, or believing in anything, it means that you attribute spiral to it. It means that you give your power away to it, just like through when you vote for a politician. Votes are there because it needs to be official. It needs to have a paper, because that's the only way not to vote. That's the only way to convince you that you are unconsciously giving away your power, because the heart is always at superposition. So the Sephiroth, every existence and all existence always exists in your heart. So it has a superposition decoding mode. And only the brain, since it doesn't understand reality, only the brain will decode it only partially. Now, if color information is used while it is hidden away as complex numbers not understood by man, it means that that's a variable that man can be controlled with. So using the imagination as archetype for colors can control logic as man. While man is 7, it also contains, number green is the center point of the rainbow, splitting up the hot colors from the cold colors as red, orange, yellow, then we have green, then we have blue, purple, and pink. So these colors are cold, these colors are hot, but they also, pink is linked to red, so you put everything on a circle. This means that it is recursive, so it can be observed at any time. Now, using those colors as the center point is the Pope as white, and beside him there is one archbishop, or I don't know how these puppets or how these muppets organize themselves. We have one black here with that red thing on the top. That is number 3 and number 2 as man, as 5 and 3 combined with that scarf on that red scarf is 2 plus 3 is 10, which 23 is actually the number of the Antichrist. Also 13 as 1 white and 3 black is the Antichrist, while the anti part of it is the color change. And the other part, you also have 3 as black. So he is 6 divided into 2 archbishops as 3 and 3 as black and black, while they have red and red on top of their head, meaning that there's 2 and 2, meaning that they divide man as 5 and 5. Together they are 6 and 10. 6 and 1 is 7 also, by controlling everyone. And that scarf on both on their heads is red plus red. It's 2 plus 2 is the heart, encoded in the center line information, as we are keeping your heart locked, but they can show you through that using the color orange. They can only show you by showing you the color orange in other means, by splitting it to 2 twos. And that's why Archbishop Vigano, which sent Mr. Trump a message about the children of light and about the children of darkness, that opened letter. I think you heard about it, no? Archbishop Vigano wears that red, and he has the color pink here on his, I don't know how it's called in English, in that scarf here, which is pink. And it also, that small thing on his head is also pink, not red. So that can tell you that he is number 3 as black and pink. Since number 2 is pink, it means that he is man, but he is the loving side of man. So he is actually having a good intention, and he is really fighting along with the light.
I don't buy that for a minute.
Forces. But
I don't buy that for a minute. You know what? The Catholic Church always has these, representatives that are fighting the good fight for humanity. And all it is controlled opposition.
Well, every bit of information that was born throughout creation, as Buddhism, Hinduism, Catholics, and Orthodoxy, and every other religion, they were born out of good intent to serve the Lord, or serve God, the spiral, the eternal love, in many different shapes and forms. Just like so, you know, information, either it can be used for bad or good. Now, while George Soros and his father stumbled upon this wisdom and tried to implement it with Gates and with everyone else, they infiltrated these structures, just like the CIA is infiltrated absolutely totally now, and they collaborate with Hollywood, and they are all here, always have been. They have been there since Project Paperclip. All the experiments on mind control, MK Ultra, and any type of human experience, they were done to see what are the limits of the singularity of consciousness, so they can use it in real life and implement it, since they will know that they will work. So everything that was born in our world as belief systems and something, they were only born to celebrate God in many different shapes and forms. Just like there are black people, white people, we all come from the same source, and we need to celebrate together us and the same source. But they can be also transmuted and infiltrated and totally turned upside down.
The word itself gives it away. Religion, religare, to tie back, to bind back, to bind me back from what? Religion is a tool of mind control in this construct, and it always has been. It was never a tool for praising anything. It was always a tool for dumbing people down and move them into the wrong direction. Sorry, that is how I see it.
Well, nobody knows the truth. So some kind of a spiritual, gathering force manifested as information, as type of religion must exist. But let's take it more simply. Let's break down the word religion. It's rely, G, God, I, on. It's always important, like information, in format, I, on. Rely, God, I, on. It means that I rely on God and I am on. I am not off, I am on. But yeah, actually you can say that we don't need religions, we only need love.
Yeah,
Because,
exactly.
but that love, it must be celebrated somehow, but by complicating the fractal structure. And if the fractal structure of existence complicates, so it must give birth to any other type of information that has the good intent, that has the pink number to divide, to celebrate the source as it expands while still being connected to the primal source.
Yeah.
So
when I look at the fruits of religion, how many lives were exterminated because of religion? When I look at how many wars were fought over religion, no. That has never been a force for something beautiful.
I think you're right. I think we should exterminate all religions. Then we are only left with love. And but the thing is how we would keep our diversity, because if cultures mix together, that was actually the initial plan, to mix everyone together so everyone will fight each other. If you keep cultures and tribes and cities and generally cultures separated, then diversity can be sustained. I mean, it will be sustained in the present as it evolves towards the future. But if everyone interbreeds with everyone, then that whole separation of it will be, they will all come together and they will all will be mixed. So this is why it's hard, because we need to act not as individuals. I mean, if I don't want the money for solving the Riemann hypothesis or something, I don't care about that. The thing is that we need to organize as a geometrical structure in order for everyone to be happy. This means that let's say you are building, so for example, I brought something here just to show you this because it's a good example. So you know how a normal bass guitar looks like when you buy it out of a store. Now, if you take a look at that, as the structure and as the materials become more expensive, so does the value of the whole guitar is more expensive. As the details become more and more, as the details complicate, so does the price does. Now, since we are fabricating everything by robots and we use always perfection, we have forgotten to add human energy to it, to add our organ to it. And if something is manufactured by robots don't have that spiral in them when you build something, you are actually that something that you have built, because your personality has been reflected throughout that, and you have gave a little part of your spirit away inside that, so that actually that matter will not be a matter anymore. It will not be a guitar. It will actually be alive and will have to be treated as such by the owner or whoever I will give it to, or whoever I will make it as a gift. So robots and this fast manufacturing is not putting an emphasis on details, on small details that we like, just like in analog, those hisses, and on vinyl, those cracks. And that is the thing that makes it interesting, by being analog and see that, okay, this was made by a soul, it was not made by a robot, and all the details are missing. It's absolutely perfect, like this table is perfect, but it's so simple, it lacks detail. And that's why the Renaissance was the golden age, or it was so good, because everyone had time to think and to make things and to really spend almost a life on building a certain object just to reach that perfection. And as that object was given away, was not kept to the self, means that you are living your other life through inside that object, while you are consciously in it, and you can always escape it. But that's how you push this orgon love energy forward towards the expansion of what we call the Big Bang. It's an imbalance factor of that main structure. So a normal bass guitar looks like that. if you add structure to it, it will look like this.
Mm-hmm.
So even on the fretboard, there is a story here. It's like there is pi, then there is number 6 as 3 and 3 triangles. Here is 8, the energy giver, exactly on the fret 8 as the octave. So when I will make a song using these shapes, I am actually not making just a song. I am seeing the story. I don't have to learn scales anymore, because when you press here or you press here or you press here, you actually know that you are accessing infinity energy now. You are taking that energy to thought, then you are pushing it through the heart, through pi, then you need to go up here to extract more energy. And this scale always repeats itself. In this scale, while here you have like this, on the other dimension is a 90-degree pass. So while you have it vertical, now you will have it horizontal like this. And after that, you can even keep the vibration by inserting tune forks inside it to keep that, to take that also, all that vibration and make good use of it by amplifying it. And also on the sides, you have another harder wood to also collect the vibrations from that side. And I call this the tombstone. Throughout this tombstone, which has exactly 8 center points as 2 hearts coming together in the center point, where number 9 and number 1 is controlling it, and it will collect that information and will push outside through its tuning fork, and it will always create this constant feedback loop throughout also this triangle, also on the headstock.
Oh, wow.
And this is by combining multiple woods by using its property, because one is harder and one is smaller, and you combine it with nature. So
Great.
actually,
so you're doing that yourself, yeah?
Yeah, I mean, it's just while I was doing this, I stumbled upon these connections, and I really wanted to give it away for free for everyone.
Oh, great. Great. So, wow. That was really, really interesting.
Time flies when you're having fun.
And we certainly didn't talk for the last time. And when you have that guitar ready, then maybe you can contact me and you can give a little bit of a soundbite and explain it again, how that all of that works, what you just squeezed into these few minutes.
I am just trying to show that the theory has real life applications, not just in psychology and self-regulation, but also matter manipulation. We can float, we can stay an hour inside, underwater. We can heal every disease by opening in this chamber that we can design this sonoluminescence frequency effect inside every cell, regulating the telomeres inside the cells so we can live forever, or we can make ourselves younger, and we can build up body parts, whatever. If you know the specific value of frequencies encoded, numbers and colors encoded in frequencies, you can modify this outside structure however you want. You can even reconstruct anything that you want, neutralize radiation, make perfect instruments. It's whole geometry. Since everything is everything, it means that the wave is geometry, the density, the string vibration, the number assembly, and everything needs to come back together to zero. And that means that thing has reached perfection, since it exists and not in the same time.
Wonderful. So this was it, guys. Night flight for today with a wonderful Akos. And stay safe and sound out there, and we see you all next time. Bye-bye.